When I was 22 years old, I started dating a guy I met on a dating app. His name was Jake. We went out about 4 times over the span of a little more than a month. At first, everything seemed fine. Our first date was just a quick coffee meetup, less than an hour, more of a way to gauge if he seemed normal. Our second date was at a bar nearby, where we had a few drinks, got a little tipsy, and had a nice time. Our third date was dinner, and that was when I started questioning things. I wondered if I really connected with his personality or if there was something a little off about him. The date ended with a kiss, our first and only one. Since I let it happen, I convinced myself it must have gone okay. A couple of weeks later, we went on what turned out to be our fourth and final date. We got drinks again, but this time, I went into it feeling less excited. I started paying attention to little things about him that I had not really noticed before, odd quirks in the way he acted that made me uncomfortable. It is hard to explain exactly what it was, but something about his mannerisms felt antisocial, maybe even a little creepy. On top of that, he was drinking way too much. As the night went on, he became very touchy-feely, constantly trying to kiss me. I do not like public displays of affection, especially not when I am sitting in a bar surrounded by strangers. I politely turned him down each time, but he kept trying. After a while, I said I was feeling tired, hinting that we should leave. He asked for the check, paid, and we got our coats before heading out. As we walked to our cars, he suddenly stopped me and bluntly asked if we could go back to my place together. I told him, not tonight. I am really tired and have work in the morning. That was a lie, but I just wanted to get out of there. He kept pushing, saying he would drive me to work the next day if that was the issue. The whole thing felt absurd, whether he was drunk or not. On top of everything, I was not comfortable with him driving home in the state he was in. That was when I decided I was not going to see him again. I got into my car and started driving home, making sure to take it slow since I had a couple of drinks. I was not drunk, but I wanted to be extra cautious. As I was driving, I kept checking my surroundings, scanning for police cars. That is probably why I noticed that the same car had been behind me for a while. After making at least 3 turns, I realized it looked exactly like Jake's car. I sent him a text, "Are you following me?" He responded almost immediately, "Yeah, I just want to make sure you get home safe." I called him, but he did not pick up. It was beyond weird. It was downright creepy. I pulled over and texted him, "Stop following me. I am fine." He stopped in the middle of the street, and I assumed he was reading my message. A few seconds later, he drove off without another word. I did not hear from him again until I was already home, in bed. His message read, "Hope I did not weird you out tonight. Sorry I got so drunk. Next time, we should do something more low-key, like dinner at my place or something." I ignored him. The next morning, he followed up with, "Oh no, is the vibe dead?" I still did not respond. Less than 2 hours later, he sent just a single question mark. At that point, I figured I should respond before things got worse. I messaged him, "Hey, I had a great time getting to know you, but I just do not think our personalities click. I also really want to focus on myself right now. I hope you understand." That was when the angry texts started rolling in. The worst one read, "No, I do not understand. You strung me along for 4 dates just to tell me that? How about you pay me back half of everything I bought for you?" There were a few more, but they got personal, so I will not repeat them. It was enough for me to block him. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. Soon after, I started receiving non-stop calls from a blocked number. I ignored all of them, and eventually, he seemed to get the message and stopped. The next day, when my parents were not home, I came back from work and found a bouquet of flowers on the doorstep. Along with it was a card and apology from Jake, asking for another chance. The fact that he knew where I lived shook me to my core. In his mind, he probably thought this was a sweet, romantic gesture. To me, it was terrifying. I sent him one final message, telling him not to contact me again and never to come to my house or I would file for a restraining order. Then, I blocked his number permanently, so I never saw his response. I thought that would be the end of it, but it was far from over. One night, while I was home alone, I woke up suddenly. At first, I was not sure what had woken me, but then I heard a noise from downstairs. I held my breath and listened carefully. A moment later, I heard an upstairs door opening. No one else was supposed to be home. Even in my half-asleep state, I knew something was very wrong. I climbed down from my bed as quietly as possible and slid underneath it, grabbing my phone to call 911. At the same time, I sent a message to my family, asking if anyone was home. Then, I heard more noises, movement from another bedroom. My own bedroom door creaked open, and I heard footsteps coming up the carpeted stairs. Then, silence. The whole room was carpeted, so I could not hear much, but then I heard my dresser drawers being opened and rummaged through. I covered my mouth to keep from making a sound, my heart pounding so hard it hurt. Then, I heard a low voice muttering, "God damn it." That voice, I was almost sure it was Jake. I stayed completely still, praying my phone would not make a sound. He kept rifling through my things, and then I felt the bed shift as he sat down. I could see his shoes from under the bed, barely visible in the dark. He sat there for at least 2 or 3 minutes before standing up again. He muttered something under his breath, then closed the drawers and walked back down the stairs. I heard the door shut, then footsteps leading to the living room. That was when I whispered into the phone, telling the 911 operator what was happening. I stayed hidden under the bed until a police officer arrived at the door. Even stepping out of my room to meet him felt terrifying. He did a full sweep of the house, and another officer, a woman, arrived to help. They found that all the windows had been left unlocked, and the dining room window, was large enough for someone to crawl through. I had never thought anyone would actually do that. I filed a police report and gave them everything, screenshots of texts, even the one where he admitted to following me home. They said they would investigate, but without solid proof that it was him inside my house, it would be tough. I was able to get a restraining order, though, and I was advised never to contact him again. He never broke into my home again, but I never felt comfortable after that, not until I finally moved out. Even now, sometimes, I still worry that he might find out where I live. I was in the 6th grade when all of this started. It was the week leading up to Halloween, and I had been staying after school to help set up a haunted house for our annual Halloween carnival. It was a fun way to spend time with my friends, and the reward of free pizza made it even better. There was another kid who also stayed late to help, a boy I will call Jake. He seemed normal enough, just another kid my age who liked to joke around. We got along just fine, and I never had any reason to feel uncomfortable around him. He was funny, easygoing, and never gave off any weird vibes. But 2 weeks later, everything changed. One afternoon, a group of girls from my grade came up to me, all grinning excitedly. When I asked them what was going on, they told me I had a secret admirer and that he was planning to message me that night. I would be lying if I said I was not a little curious about who it could be. That night, just as I was getting ready to go to bed, I got a message on the only app one had at the time, Facebook Messenger. The message was from Jake. I had completely forgotten that I had added him as a friend on Halloween. When I opened the message, it read, "Hey, I need to talk to you." Concerned, I replied, "Yeah, what is up? Everything okay?" I had no idea that this simple response would turn into a nightmare. I watched as the typing bubbles appeared and then stayed there for what felt like forever. When the message finally came through, it was a long paragraph where he poured out his feelings, saying he had been in love with me since Halloween. He told me he had tried to impress me during recess with his soccer skills but felt like I never noticed him. The message ended with him saying that he was tired of being ignored and then asked me to be his girlfriend. I sat there staring at the screen, cringing at every word. I barely even knew him. Sure, we had spent some time together after school, but we were not close, and I had not spoken to him much since the carnival ended. I knew I had to let him down gently because I did not want to hurt his feelings, so I told him that I thought he was a great person but that I did not feel the same way and wanted to just be friends. He did not take it well. He kept asking why and demanding reasons, pushing me to explain myself over and over until he finally stopped responding. The next day at school was a nightmare. His friends kept coming up to me, telling me that Jake had told everyone he was going to kiss me whether I wanted him to or not. They laughed about it like it was a joke, but to me, it felt like a threat. That was when I decided to tell my teacher. She told me to stay inside during recess and lunch and to run straight to the classroom if he tried anything. That did not make me feel much safer, so I went to the principal, who assured me that they would handle it right away. For a moment, I felt relieved. But that relief did not last long. Later that week, I was walking home from school when I heard a knock at my front door. I had just stepped inside, and my mother was still in the kitchen, so she answered it. By the time she opened the door, no one was there. Instead, there was a piece of paper on the ground addressed to me. The note said there was a surprise waiting for me under the Cadillac in our driveway. At the time, the car belonged to my brother. My mother went outside to check but found nothing. However, after that day, my brother's car mysteriously stopped working. To this day, I have no idea what Jake did to the car, but my brother ended up having to sell it. The harassment did not stop there. His friends constantly pressured me to give him a chance and kept telling me he would treat me right. I even caught him taking a picture of me as I was walking home. The only reason I noticed was because I barely heard the faint clicking sound of an iPhone camera behind me. I have no idea how many pictures he took of me without me noticing. Every morning, I woke up to messages from him saying things like, "I cannot wait to see you at school," or, "I bet you will look beautiful today." At this point, I was genuinely afraid. He knew where I lived. He had already followed me home once. I felt unsafe in my own house. When I was finally called into the school counselor's office, I felt a wave of relief, thinking something was finally going to be done about it. Instead, the counselor told me something that still haunts me to this day. She smiled and said, "Boys will be boys. They do crazy things when they are in love. You should feel flattered. This is just something you will have to learn from." At the time, I believed her. But looking back now, it is terrifying to think that an adult woman told a 6th grade girl that being stalked and harassed was a compliment. That afternoon, I told my mother everything the counselor had said. She was furious. Later that week, she marched into the principal's office with me by her side and demanded to know why nothing was being done. I remember her saying, "Are you waiting for something bad to happen to her before you take this seriously?" The principal and counselor just sat there, silent. My mother ended the meeting by telling the counselor that she was never to speak to me again unless she was present. I do not think the school ever actually punished Jake. He got away with everything. The worst part came on a weekend when my parents had gone out shopping. I was lying in bed, watching a video on my tablet, when I heard something hit my window. I live on the 2nd floor. The only thing that ever hits my window are birds or the occasional tree branch during a storm. But this was different. Then I heard it again. And again. Someone was throwing rocks. My stomach dropped as I slowly got up and peeked through the curtain. Jake was standing in my yard, holding a handful of stones, looking right up at my window. He was about to throw another when he noticed me watching him. I could see him mouthing words, but I did not stay long enough to figure out what he was saying. I ran around the house, checking that every door and window was locked. When I got back to my room, I had 4 new messages from him. "Why did you leave? I just want to talk. I am sorry. All I wanted was a kiss. Please forgive me. You are not who I thought you were. Goodbye." I blocked him after that. Thankfully, I never had another incident with him, though I had to see him at school all the way through senior year. The last thing I ever heard about Jake was that he had been arrested. For what, I have no idea. Looking back, the scariest part of my story is not even the stalking, it is the fact that a school counselor told a little girl that this was just boys being boys and that I should feel honored by the attention. I just hope she no longer works with children. And I hope I never see Jake again.